Daisy was determined to finish the argument on her terms, to have the last word and prove herself right, unaware of the damage her words were about to cause. Then she said it. "You argue too much for men. No wonder you're so small down there." The instant those words slipped out, the mood in the room shifted. The tension that had been building didn't erupt. It collapsed into a crushing quiet. Raymond didn't lash out, didn't shout back, didn't throw an insult. He just stood there, frozen, his jaw set, his fists clenching slightly, his eyes dark with something deeper than fury. It was pain. It was humiliation. It was a wound she had unknowingly cut open. Without a word, he turned and walked away. Daisy waited, expecting him to storm back and resume the fight like always, but this time he didn't. The silence left behind was heavier than any angry response he could have given. Most couples fight with shouting, slamming doors, and then return to each other. That rhythm had always defined Daisy's marriage with Raymond. Their conflicts were messy, but they always circled back. This time there was no return. That night he didn't come to. But first Daisy thought he just needed space, that he'd cool off and slip under the covers later, or maybe things would feel normal by morning. When she reached out the next day, his side of the bed was untouched. A creeping unease settled in her chest. This wasn't like no matter how bad things had gotten before, he had always been there, even if only physically. She rose from bed and searched the house, certain she'd find him in the kitchen or stretched on the Instead, she found him in the guest room, seated on the edge of the bed, distant. He wasn't sulking. He wasn't angry. He looked hollow. Daisy paused at the doorway, waiting for him to speak, but he stayed quiet. She broke the silence first. "Raymond, why are you sleeping in here?" He didn't respond. Asked again if he was still upset, if he planned to come back to their room. He barely looked her way. When he did speak, his voice was calm, detached. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even a request for understanding. It was just silence. Weighty, suffocating silence that carried more meaning than words. Days dragged on, but nothing shifted. First, Daisy told herself he only needed time, that they'd fall back into their routine. But they didn't. Raymond grew more distant. When she entered a room, he walked out. When she tried to talk, he barely reacted. When she reached for him, he recoiled. It wasn't simple anger. It was something deeper, something final. It felt as if he had erased her from his world without speaking a word. Desperate to mend things, Daisy tried the only way she knew, through food. She prepared his favorites, hoping familiar flavors might soften him. But he left his plate mostly intact. She scribbled notes, made little gestures of regret, trying to express her apology without words. None of it reached him. For the first time, Daisy realized this wasn't just another. It was something broken beyond repair. She tried easing the air with a joke, but he didn't even smile. Brushed her fingers against his hand, but he stiffened. Nothing worked. That's when the chilling truth struck her. For years, she had believed arguments meant there was still love to fight for. If they were shouting, they still cared. But this silence was heavier than any screaming. It was emptiness. And that emptiness felt like something between them had already died. Daisy didn't realize her words hadn't just hurt in the moment, they had reopened an old scar. One Raymond had spent years trying to bury. Raymond had always carried quiet doubts about his size, though he never admitted it, not even to his closest friends. In high school he had been mocked and whispered about, cruel rumors spreading From a careless locker room comment that snowballed into something bigger. He still remembered the look on the face of the girl he secretly liked when she heard the gossip. It wasn't anger nor pity, just indifference, as though he had vanished from her world. That moment haunted him into adulthood, no matter how much he tried to bury it. His last serious relationship ended in the harshest way. He had walked in on his girlfriend with another man, and when he demanded an explanation, she didn't cry or plead. Just shrugged and said, "You don't satisfy me." That single sentence shattered him. From then on, he locked his pain away, never letting anyone close enough to see his weakness. He worked hard to rebuild his confidence, convincing himself he had moved past it. Then Daisy entered his life, and suddenly everything felt different. With her, he didn't feel small or unworthy. He didn't need to prove anything. He felt safe, accepted, seen for who he was. For the first time in years, he believed he had left the past behind. But then came that night. Argument cut deeper than he thought possible. You argue too much for someone who's barely a man. No wonder you're so tiny down there. One cruel remark, and everything he had built crumbled. Dragged him back to the old torment, the mockery, the betrayal, the shame. Only this time the wound wasn't from a stranger or a faithless ex. It was from Daisy, the one person he trusted not to hurt him. For the first time since they met, he didn't know how to face her. Daisy, on her part, believed time would heal it. She waited, but instead of mending, he drifted further away. Determined, one evening she went to the guest room where he had been staying, expecting to see him scrolling his phone. Instead, she found an empty room. The shower was running and his phone lay on the bed, screen glowing. She hesitated. She wasn't one to invade his privacy. An email notification caught her eye. The subject line read, regarding divorce proceedings. Her breath caught. Divorce. It couldn't be. It had to be some mistake. But deep down she knew it wasn't. This wasn't just about the argument. Raymond wasn't simply angry. He was preparing to leave. When he stepped out of the bathroom, she was waiting, her heart pounding. "Are you really thinking about divorcing me over one fight?" she whispered. For the first time in weeks. He looked at her, but his eyes held no rage, no sorrow, just emptiness. He spoke, his voice was steady, almost cold. "You think this is just about that night?" That was when she understood. It wasn't just the insult. It was years of ignored wounds, unresolved arguments, the quiet distance they had let grow. That night was the breaking point, but the cracks had been there for a long time. Desperate, Daisy tried everything: apologies in words, in meals, in notes, in small gestures. She brought up the weather, his day, their memories, anything to spark a connection. But his answers were always the same: short, disinterested, cold. That silence was the worst of all. Could feel he already knew the truth. She was afraid to ask. Did he still want to stay? His silence said it all. Daisy had always believed regret could be fixed, that if you tried hard enough, mistakes could be undone. But this felt different. This was a wound too deep for apology. One evening, walking past the guest room, she froze. Raymond was packing a suitcase, clothes folded neatly inside. Panic seized her, and she stepped in, her voice trembling. "Are you really leaving?" He didn't answer right away. He finally turned. His tone was steady yet weighted with truth. "I don't know if I can get past this." The words pierced her harder than any anger could. She had Expected shouting, resentment maybe. Tears, but calm uncertainty was worse. Tears blurred her vision. Pride no longer mattered. "I love you," she whispered. "I messed up. I wish I could take it back. Just tell me what to do." For the first time in weeks, something flickered in his expression. Hesitation, conflict, a shadow, a feeling. Silence hung before he spoke. "You can't take back what you said. I can't unhear it." Her heart sank. Then he added, "But maybe, I don't want to walk away. Not yet." It wasn't forgiveness, not a promise, but it was something. And for Daisy that was all she had left to cling to. Raymond didn't leave that night, but the fracture remained. Healing would be a long road. And Daisy knew some wounds would never fade quickly. The real question was whether their love could survive.